Hello and welcome to yet another primetime episode. I'm always chasing after people who are chasing their passions. And it's so great that this time I have a couple who's literally chasing their passions because they're called Chase for Adventure. They're very highly followed, patronized YouTube channel, Chase for Adventure, which has just a smidge under 130,000 followers. If I have my facts right, in 2018, at some point, this American couple chucked up their lives as they knew them to be, gave up their jobs, sold everything, and decided to hit the road and have been globetrotting and making the most amazing videos along the way. Across their travels, they've even had a baby, and now their baby Apollo has joined the tribe, the traveling tribe, and they as they continue to chase adventures all over the world. So I thought that it'll be such a lovely thing to hear from Annette and Daniel today for all the young people who watch this show. And I always try and bring you guys people who've converted their passions into their full-time work and full-time pursuits. So I'm absolutely thrilled that we have Annette from Chase for Adventure here today. Welcome, Annette.
Thank you so much for having me. And so sorry that Daniel had to step out. Daniel and Apollo were here, but Apollo is about to turn 8 months old and he has been super duper chatty and he's so excited to be alive. But we figured that would be a little bit more distracting. Maybe at the end, I'll bring him back so that he could say hello.
That'll be lovely. That'll be lovely. Okay, great. So, Annette, if you don't mind me asking, and you must be used to the fact that Indians are a little bit nosy in any case,
I love it.
I'd usually start with by asking my guests to tell us a little bit about your growing up years, your childhood years. Where were they? What were they like?
Okay, so when I was growing up, my family was a very traditional immigrant family where my parents were born in Cuba. They migrated to Miami, Florida. And it was a very traditional Cuban upbringing. Very conservative, very Annette, you must be a doctor, a lawyer, because that's a safe career and that's what you need to be doing. And so, but I was always a free spirit, like ever since I was young, which also meant I was a giant disappointment to my mother. I love her. And obviously, and I think that a lot of Indians can relate because Indians, just like Cubans, are a very hustle culture. They want their kids to be successful. They do everything in their power and sacrifice everything that they can for their kids to be successful. So it makes sense for parents to want to see their kids be successful and to do something that's safe, something that's going to guarantee success. And so, anywho, I went to college, I graduated, I got my bachelor's degree, I got a very normal job. I ended up becoming a childcare worker at this job, but I am a very hard worker, if I can toot my own horn a little bit. And I swiftly got promoted into a director management position where I was
Mhm.
at. And then I became depressed. And that was just not a good place for me. So I had to transition my career. I ended up becoming a preschool teacher. And
Okay.
somewhere along this entire trajectory, everybody tells you that, if you get the job, if you're making the money, if you have the house and the car and the nice things, that you're going to be happy. And at that job, I had met Daniel. We were both working really adult careers at super young. I was 20 and 21, and he was 21
Wow.
when we
Okay.
had, a very nice income and a house and
Right.
cars and furniture. And we weren't happy. And we kept looking at each other going like, but why? Isn't this the formula that everybody tells you? Get the job, get the career, get the money, enjoy. And we just weren't there. And so we figured, man, is this what we want the next 40, 50 years to be? And so we got married and our wedding day was the happiest day of our lives, as cliche as that sounds. And then the following day, we were super depressed because we had just had the best day of our lives and realized, man, we can't afford to we can afford to take a day off. So, here we have it. Friday is our wedding rehearsal. Daniel's
Sure.
boss is asking him to be on call for his wedding and rehearsal, which what?
Wow.
Um, Saturday, happiest day of our lives. We're disobeying Daniel's boss who wants him to be on call on his wedding day. Sunday, all of our family members leave back to their normal lives. And Monday, we're supposed to be back at work. And so I looked at Daniel. We were watching YouTube videos at the time, watching people travel the world. And I'm like, what is so special about these people? I can go around with a camera and travel the world and be rich and famous. At least that was like the perception at the time. And so we had looked up how much it would take, how much money it would take to travel the world for 1 year, keeping our
Uh-huh.
stuff, but traveling and then coming back. And it was like
Sure.
40,000 US dollars. And
Okay.
when we did the math, it was going to take us like 3 or 4 years to save that amount of money. And I was like, Daniel, I can't wait. So then I
Right.
was like, mind you, I have a super crazy idea. What if we sold everything? I'm talking our cars, all of our furniture, our clothes, anything in storage. Then we would definitely have this money. We could start off in the cheapest country in the world, which was Bangkok, Thailand. And then we could commit to figuring it out. We don't have to have all the answers right now. But if we sold everything, had the money, went to the cheapest place, that means our money would go for at least a year. And in 1 year, Daniel, we could definitely figure out how to make money online and how to continue this lifestyle. And so that's exactly what we did. And then the rest was history.
No, but okay. So you brought up many interesting things. So forgive me if I take you back a little bit.
That's fine.
But so you said that you were watching these YouTubers, and you said, "What's so special? We can do the same thing. Probably do it better." So was the idea from the get go that you would sell out and travel and make YouTube videos from the beginning itself?
Yes. As a matter of fact, as we sold our things, Daniel and I always phrase it that we traded in our cars for cameras. So we
Right.
sold our cars and then we immediately bought camera equipment because, I mean, we had no background in cameras, photography, videography, editing,
Yeah, which is
nothing.
exactly what I was going to come to next, because it's all very well to say, okay, here's what we're going to do, but from whatever little you've told me about Daniel and yourself, neither of you obviously had any technical background in shooting anything or handling a camera.
Absolutely none. To be honest, outside of my camera phone, that was the only camera I had ever interacted with. Same thing for Daniel. So it took us 8 months from the
Hmm.
time that we decided we started selling all of our stuff. We moved into Daniel's parents' house. They were
Okay.
very, very kind to let us do it. And then we had 8 months from the time that we sold to the time that we flew. I was a teacher at the
But
time,
Annette,
and I
I'm really sorry. Let me interrupt you here, because this is a very important and a huge decision that you guys have made. Now, at this point, when you actually start selling your things, and you said it took about 7, 8 months, at this point, what are the kind of, I wouldn't say challenges, but did you have parts of either of your families or friends essentially saying that you guys have gone nuts? What the hell are you doing? And if yes, how did you sort of deal with that?
Okay, well, as I started the interview, my mom was never a big supporter of me traveling or doing anything remarkably ambitious. And at the time, I had originally told her that I was going back to get my master's degree in business. And
Uh-huh.
then this is actually a little bit of backstory. I had then read some articles online of these people who are like, I went and spent, $70,000, $80,000 in business school, when in reality, I should have just used those $80,000 as capital to start my business. Because what is important in business is your courage and your risk taking ability. And
Sure.
so I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So when I told my mom that, hey, by the way, I'm not getting my master's. Oh, and by the way, I'm selling everything to travel the world and be a YouTuber. She's like, you've officially gone mad. You are making the biggest mistake of your life. And she hung up the phone and we didn't talk for months after that.
Wow. Yeah. Because
So,
the thing is
well,
that
that was,
in hindsight, when things work out very well, it's all cushy. But at that point, to have and you may say it with a sense of humor, but to have a parent that you're very close to essentially cut ties with you is not an easy thing to happen. So,
yeah.
but yeah. So sort of how did you deal with it, or you were just, I suppose you were just fueled by your passion, and you were like, okay, fine, if this has to be the collateral damage, then so be it.
Yeah, well, the thing with my mom is there are many things in my life. I know that this sounds awful, but many things that I've done in my life that have not been to her liking and have been a
Mm.
huge disappointment. And I've turned out fine. Like, for example, another one of those is she didn't want me to go away to college. She wanted me to go to college in my city. That was
Right.
another time that my mom stopped talking to me for a period of time. And so
Okay.
I kind of, from a young age, realized that I was never going to make her happy. And so if I'm not going to make her happy, like, I'm not living my life for her. I'm living my
Right.
life for me. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I have to be the one that's happy with the person that's looking back at me in the mirror. And
Yeah.
so throughout my life, to answer your question, yeah, that's been difficult because I think anyone, especially a woman, would love to have a relationship with their mother, a close one at that. But I also realized that my mom came from a very different set of circumstances. For one, my mom came from Cuba, where she had to literally starve so that she could feed my sister, would have to negotiate with people and a black market sort of situation to get things like toilet paper, sometimes use newspapers to use the bathroom.
Wow.
And so when you come from that lifestyle, and then you're moving to America, leaving your family behind, sister behind, family and friends behind, to go to a brand new country where you don't speak the language, start from zero, and then try and make something of your children, and you want your children to be successful. I mean, she had it from her perspective every right to think I'm a lunatic and to be upset. So I have never held that against my mom. Furthermore, on top of that, to do a career, like let's say one thing is acting. Hollywood's been around forever. YouTube, though, has only been around since 2008. My mom doesn't
Right.
know what YouTube is. So for me to
Sure.
tell her, I'm going to make a career online, or like, she's thinking, what is this? This has been around for 10 years at the time. What do you mean you're going to make a career out of that? To be honest, I even think now, 4 years down the line, she still has no idea what I do or how I make money. Um, but to be honest, to answer your question, it was fine.
Yeah,
It's something
but
that
I
I've dealt
think
with my whole
a
life.
lot of what you have said finds immense resonance in India because there are so many families and parents who hold this view. But I think the most important thing you said, and that's exactly what I was trying to get you to say, is that at the end of the day, what young people need to understand is that despite their best efforts, if they are not being able to please their parents, they have to realize that the most important thing is charity begins at home. You must live for yourself, and you must live to make yourself happy, and everything else is a later on priority, a secondary priority. Okay,
Right.
great. Yeah.
But
So
I would almost want to have a whole separate conversation with you because I think that this is something that's very interesting culture wise. And there are pros and cons to this. And something that Daniel and I reject about the United States, we love America, but something that we reject about the United States is to the degree of individualism that this country has
sure.
come to where in India, you would almost argue it's the backwards, where it's so collectivist, it's so about the family that there isn't enough space for you to be you. But I think that there is a fine balance because in America, we have come so far away from the family concept and it's all about you that families are being destroyed because of it. So, something
Right.
that I do want, I'm saying, yes, you have to live for you, but not at the expense of collateral damage. So, trying to strike a
Sure.
balance between these.
Yeah, I think neither extreme is good. So one has to sort of find a mid path. Okay, so wonderful. So you go through this process of 8 months, and then what's the first port of call? You said Thailand, is it?
Yeah, so it was Bangkok, Thailand. We had 2 weeks there, way too long to be in Bangkok, but when you've never been to a country, you're literally going to a country that, I mean, we had never been to Asia before. They speak Thai, which is so different. I speak 4 languages. None of them are Thai. And none of them are like Thai either. So going there was an incredible experience. We fell in love with the country. And to this day, it's still a country that we continue to go back to. It's where we've had our baby. It's where we might be moving back to in January. But yeah, so that was the first protocol. And in that first year, we visited 11 countries throughout
Wow.
Southeast Asia. The following year, we traveled through Vietnam and Australia and England, and we went to Cuba, my first time in Cuba. And it's been a beautiful ride. We've been able to see some of the world's most beautiful places, meet the most wonderful people. Um, and man, we feel like we've lived 3 lifetimes worth of memories and excitement and adventure in just the last 3 years.
Which is absolutely fine and all very well, and it sounds peachy and rosy. But the hard fact of the matter was that when you guys did trade in your cars for cameras and you had no idea how to operate them, what were those initial couple of weeks or months like? I mean, how did you? What are the kind of challenges or problems you faced when you first started YouTubing and you first started blogging? What set of circumstances did you face, and how did you guys sort of? I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but now on your website you guys also do short courses to help other beginners with a lot of these problems that they would face starting out. But who helped you, and how did you guys just sort of self learn while you were on the go? What happened?
So this is why we created the courses. Yeah, we had no one. We had nobody who had done this lifestyle before. We didn't know the word digital nomad didn't even exist when we started. And so for us, yeah, we had to figure it all out. Those 8 months, Daniel was on YouTube learning everything he could about video editing, everything that he could about cameras. I spent so much time learning everything I could about marketing and web development and a number of things because, yeah, we had no idea. So, I mean, number one, the biggest struggle, how are we going to make money? We
Yeah,
had saved 16,000 US dollars, which is what we had gotten from selling all of our stuff and money that we had saved. But that doesn't swing you forever. You
sure.
know, even in a cheap country like Thailand, like it
Yeah,
lasted 8 months before we ran out
right,
of money. We had
right.
to then go to Australia and do a working holiday visa. Daniel became a bartender. And during that time, I was taking a course on how to create courses because I had never recorded something. I didn't know how, I knew how to teach preschool. I didn't know how to
Right.
teach adults anything. And I wanted to make sure that I created something that was of quality. But yeah, we had to figure out how to make money. So to answer that question, there were so many things that we did. For one, I started freelancing. We did freelance graphic design, freelance web development, basically the skills that we had now taken, 8 months before we left traveling, and now 10 months after we had left, after we had started traveling to learn. We started doing that. I started a tour company where I was taking our subscribers around the world. We did tours to
Wow.
Australia. We had started tours to Thailand, and then the pandemic happened. Then we started teaching English online through a platform called VIP Kid. Then it was Magic Years. Then it was freelance teaching and tutoring. Uh,
Wow.
and then Daniel went and did that bartending with a working holiday visa in Australia. I launched the courses. Then during the pandemic, we launched a set of masks. And so we've done a number of things under the sun. But you want to know something? In that journey of figuring out, we didn't know what we were passionate about. We were passionate about travel and sharing the world with people. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't make money. I think that that's a big misconception that I'm going to go ahead and like spread to everybody. It's a
Mhm.
great marketing platform. It is not in and of itself a business plan. And
I
any
see.
YouTube will tell you this. Unless they have 10 million subscribers or even like several 100,000 subscribers, they're not making money. They have to have
I
a
see.
separate income source.
Okay.
But in having to do all of these different jobs, we have now been able to coach dozens of students on exactly what jobs are available, how to find remote jobs, how to balance a schedule, how to learn these skills for free. Because, like you've mentioned, we didn't get degrees in photography, we didn't get degrees in videography, we had no experience. So, where did we learn? So we teach people how to get these skills online. And so yeah, that was kind of that journey.
But
So the
this, so
struggle
this is
was making money and
yeah.
learning it.
But this is very, very interesting because this is completely shocking news to me because I just assumed that being sort of successful enough YouTubers with a large enough following that that's essentially what was keeping you guys afloat financially, and you say that's not the case. So it's
Absolutely
amazing
not.
because it's again, and I want young people to understand this because when you're young and idealistic, you also tend to become very glamour struck. Young people would watch an episode or two of, let's say, Chase for Adventure, and they'd be like, "My God, this is the sort of golden life." Not realizing perhaps how much sacrifice and hard work goes behind it, because it's obviously you're having to juggle multiple jobs. It's very uncertain. There's no stability. You don't know what's going to happen the following month. So that's incredible. I mean, that's a lot of constant challenges to deal with. but you obviously are of the opinion that all of that pales in comparison with the experiences that you gather.
Absolutely. Well, to give you even, I know that Indians are nosy. I'm nosy myself. We make 90 US dollars a month off of YouTube, which
Oh
is what?
gosh.
Eating 3 meals at a restaurant for Daniel and I?
Oh,
So that's
absolutely.
nothing. And that pales in comparison to, the cost of operating a website, operating, the platforms where we teach our courses, camera equipment, memory cards, hard drives, other software, editing software. So those are all things to consider. Yeah, YouTube isn't the way that we've done that. But you know what? That was a preconceived notion that I had going into YouTube that I wish I would have known before. Not that I think it would
Mhm.
have changed what I've done, but I would have been better prepared. Before
Right.
I would have left, I would have been already learning freelancing and been
Sure.
on teaching English online. I would have left with a job. I wouldn't
Right.
have been like, let me try and make YouTube my primary source of income.
Right.
Because
Right.
if that's the case, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Even 4 years later,
Mm.
130,000 subscribers later, tens of millions of views on our channel later,
I know.
that's
Yeah.
still only the money that you're making.
That's
And so
incredible.
you have to have a passion for it. But that's where
Yeah.
I think your heart needs to be in the right place. Daniel and I didn't start YouTube to become rich and famous. We
Sure.
started YouTube because we wanted to show people that if you have dreams, they can come true, no matter what the odds are stacked against you. I am a woman. I am a minority woman at that. My first language is Spanish. Everybody thought, like, my family has no affluence. Okay. They're Cuban immigrants at that. So I wanted to show people that no matter what your background looked like, what you started as, it doesn't determine who you're going to be. And I think that that's a really
Sure.
important thing
Absolutely.
in life.
Absolutely. That's such a powerful statement. Okay, I'm going to again take you back, Annette, because what we somehow missed, and this is my mistake, is how did the two of you figure out that traveling was going to be your passion? I know that you mentioned that you guys used to watch other YouTubers and watch travel videos, but certainly there had to be a little bit more than that. And it's touchwood. I mean, I'm thrilled for the two of you that you found each other and each other's common passion, because it can be otherwise a pretty big bummer if one of the you in the relationship wants to travel the world and the other one doesn't. But really, how did you figure out that, or how did you realize that that traveling is what you both wanted to do?
Can I let you in on a little secret?
Please do.
Daniel did not want to travel.
Okay.
And so this all started back when he and I first started dating. Mind you, this is
Mhm.
now 2014. I am
Mhm.
19 years old. Daniel's 20. And we have just started dating. We're getting smitten. We've been together for, I think, like 8 months at this time. And I told him that I am passionate about travel. I've always wanted to travel the world. I mean, I didn't even think about the world at this time. I just wanted to travel Europe, because I think for Americans, especially Americans that haven't really ever traveled, for us, like the golden places, I need to go to Paris, or I need
Right.
to go to Rome or
Right.
Big Ben in London. So
Right.
I wanted to see Europe. I was like, I can't die. I can't leave this planet without having traveled to Europe or traveled anywhere at that point. And Daniel told me, well, I've traveled. His
Yeah.
family had taken him some places when he was younger. And so he said, I've already done all the traveling that I want to do in my life. So if you want to travel, you need to travel without me.
Mm-hmm.
But if we decide to get married, I don't want you traveling without me, and I'm not going to travel. So if you're going to travel, you need to do it now. He said this obviously in a much nicer way, but that's the gist of the
Sure.
conversation. And I'm like, holy moly, well, I want to travel. So okay, well, this is really important information to know. I wrote a $300 check to the study abroad office the next day, and I had signed up to be for a whole summer in Europe studying abroad.
Okay. Wow.
Daniel did not expect that to happen. I think that he thought more that my travel was just something that I would have liked to do, not something that I had to do.
Right.
But when I told him, hey, I am going to Europe for 6 weeks this summer, I would love for you to come. But if you don't come, I mean, don't, but come maybe. Well, months passed, and Daniel's like, oh, she's really going to go to Europe without me. So he booked tickets and he decided to come with me. And so we traveled, man, through 10 countries at that point too. I was living in Italy. So he was living with me in Florence. We traveled to Paris. We went to Amsterdam, England. We went to Greece, Bulgaria, Ireland. Man, we went so many places during that trip. And it was a beautiful time. And I think that that's when Daniel and I realized that we were going to get married. At least for me, I realized like this is it for me. Because I didn't want to delete all of the pictures that we just took all through Europe. Hello. No, but really because, you know, there were misbooked hostels. We had missed flights. We got sick during the trip and some things had to happen. And during all of these huge inconveniences, Daniel and I never turned on each other. It
Yeah.
was always, we would laugh about it. We'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe this would happen. And we could be frustrated about the situation, but there was never this blame of, you
Right.
didn't double check. It was just so happy. And so,
Right.
anyway, we traveled. I came back so upset. I was like, I need to travel again. And
Daniel, sorry to drag you in, but
No, not at all. I'm sorry
we've
that
been
I haven't been able to be in it.
no problem. We've been talking a little bit about, I was trying to understand from Annette how the two of you actually figured out that you want to travel the world and be digital nomads. And she sort of, I don't know if she's going to get into trouble for this, but she confessed to me that it was her who was the more travel obsessed one of the two, and you weren't sort of as keen perhaps as she was. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about how you got on board and how you became convinced. And I believe you had to sort of take a bit of a leap of faith and trust your wife that let's go along for this ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we going as far back as 2015 or? Because
yeah.
it's kind of happened twice in our relationship where she's brought it up where she really wanted to get out and travel. And I was like, oh, that's great. I don't want to do that. So the first time was actually in 2015. We had been dating for probably about 8 months. And obviously at that point, I feel like when you're in a relationship, like at that point, you should start knowing if you want to stay with this person long term or if you don't. And I mean, we definitely were on the same page with like wanting to stay together, and we had a beautiful relationship. And so she was like, Daniel, I don't know how or when I want to do this, but I really want to travel. And I was like, you really need to do that before we get married, because like once we get married, I want to be with my wife and like make sure we're together and we're doing everything and sharing experiences, but I don't want to travel. So if you want to travel, you should do that before we get married. And then like 2 days later, she had given her like initial check to the study abroad office so she could go abroad for a month and a half. And then I was like, oh, wow, she's really doing it. Okay. So then she spent the next like 4 months trying to convince me just to go on this trip. Like this isn't
Right.
even what we're doing now. And
Yeah.
she spent 4 months trying to convince me, finally got me convinced like 2 weeks before she was supposed to go. So we ended up going and having a crazy, amazing time in Europe. And we were like, wow, like what like once in a lifetime opportunity. Like when is this ever going to happen again? And fully thinking that it wasn't. And then we started getting into like watching travel YouTubers, I think 2017,
Right.
around end of 2016, beginning of 2017. And we're like, wow, how great is it that like people get to just like film their lives and travel the world full time and they get paid for it. And we were like, that'd be so cool if we could do it. But like it just never crossed our minds that we could
Sure.
until all of a sudden Annette came to me and she was like, Daniel, I'm applying for jobs abroad. And I was like, I was like, what are you doing? I just got like a career job here. And she was like, oh, I know. But like, just in case anything ever happens to it. And we were like, okay, like we'll leave it up. Well, I ended up being in that job and like not really respected by my boss. But then I realized that it was like, I can't spend the next 40 years of my life doing this. It is the same thing day in, day out. I'm working like
Sure.
12 hours a day during the week. And then I was still working on the weekends from the amount of work that there was. And it was expected that I didn't get paid anymore, but I still had to show up to work. I still had to wake up at like 5 a.m. when someone needed me, or I still had to go on the weekends when I was it would be like 3 hours away on a family trip. And it'd be like, my boss was like, you should have told me that you were going to be out of town so I could plan. And I was
Wow.
like, and it was just that. And I'm sure so many people experience that around the world. And it was just like, no, we can't do it. So I finally was like, Annette, you spent the last wow, I think like 3 or 4 months. There must be a common theme with like 3 or 4 months of her convincing me to travel. But she spent like 3 or 4 months trying to convince me to be like, you know what? Forget it. Let's sell everything and go travel the world.
Right.
And then, yeah, I wasn't convinced until our wedding day. Is that so? We had the happiest day of our lives on our wedding day, and we were like, wow, like how do I spend every day this present? And the next day we were like overridden with anxiety, having to go to work, and we were like, nope, that's it. And we sold, I don't know if she told you, but we had 2 guitars up on the wall, and we sold those, and we were like, you know what, if they sell tonight, it's meant to be. They sold within like an hour, and we were like, that's a sign.
Wow.
Now we have to sell everything.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. That's so lovely to know. Okay, I do want to ask. Either of you can answer these 2 questions. Last couple
Yeah.
of questions, guys, and then I'll let you guys go. One is, and I know that Annette mentioned this very briefly, but especially for your guys' lifestyle and what you've been doing for the past few years, specifically when the pandemic hit. Where were you, and how did it impact all of your plans, and how did you deal with it?
So
Big question.
yeah, that is a loaded question. So to start, we were actually planning on moving to the south of India, so that way we could rent a 400cc motorcycle and road trip southern India.
Okay.
And we had made that decision right before we went to China. And we were in China for Christmas? No, we were in Sri Lanka.
I guess so. We were in India November.
Yeah.
We went to Sri Lanka December.
Yeah.
We were in China
in January. And then when the outbreak of the coronavirus happened, it actually happened while we were in Shanghai.
Oh,
and
wow,
our friend messaged us and was like, hey, be careful, wear a mask. It looks like there's a bad virus. It may be an epidemic. And we were like, oh, okay. Like, it doesn't know my immune system. And
we
so,
just came back from eating street food in India all over the place. Like, we're going to be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Safe assumption.
Say it again.
Safe assumption.
Yeah, right. And so, well, you know what? We were like, well, things are kind of heating up in China. We didn't have enough money to stay through Chinese New Year because it got expensive. We get to South Korea, but on our way to South Korea, like on the flight, we realized that everyone's looking at the same article online, and everyone's like wearing a mask, like looking around, really like visibly worried. And so we find this article that everyone's reading in like 3 different languages. And it was about this virus that had made it out of China, and it had just made it to Seoul, which was where we were going. And so we were just like, okay, well, we'll still go. Like, we'll still have a good time. Like, it looks like it's just like, maybe we need to wear a mask, and it's probably something like a flu.
Right. No, in any case, at that stage, the world had never seen anything like this. So nobody.
This is January.
This was
the proportion that it would take on, obviously.
And they didn't. I don't think at the time they realized how spreadable it was.
Sure.
I think that was the bigger thing, because us living in Asia, we just pay attention to like epidemics and stuff like that, because they do happen.
MERS,
like
SARS.
Yeah, MERS, SARS have happened, and even outside of that, like Thailand has had flu epidemics, and some other Southeast Asian countries have had the same. So it's just something that we pay attention for. And so we were just taking the same precautions with this. And so we were like, well, you know what? Like, things are starting to get weird in South Korea. They started messaging our cell phones, like, wear a mask, try to stay out of large groups. And we're like, this escalated real quick. And we actually went and we got the last 4 masks available at 7-Eleven. They were sold out already, like within hours. And so we were like, you know what? Maybe this is just like a North Asia, like China, South Korea. Let's go to Thailand for a month, see how things play out there. And it looked like things were fine. So we spent a month in Thailand, and we're like, yes, like coronavirus isn't going to like impact our life, because obviously like our life is traveling full time. And so we were like, you know what, let's do a 2-week trip to the Philippines, and then we have to be back in Thailand anyways. And so we went and did that. Well, while we were on these remote islands, Annette and I were just getting like a bad gut feeling. Travel started getting really difficult. They were doing temperature checks everywhere. They were making you log down everywhere you've been in the country. Like, we're talking like date and like port of entry, port of exit, all of it. And we were like, okay. And news with corona, like, it wasn't coronavirus at the time, but news with the virus was starting to pick up. We were like, let's just play it safe. What is the most remote place we can go in Thailand? Like, just to wait out and see what happens over the next couple months. And so we went to a remote island off the coast of Thailand and Cambodia, and called Koh Chang. And within, I think, maybe 2 weeks, we were fully locked down. We were fully locked down in Thailand. And granted, we were extremely fortunate because even though coronavirus changed our plans, like it didn't allow us to travel, we ended up getting stuck down on this island. We had coordinated with a friend to volunteer for like 3 months just in case things went south.
Okay.
And so we ended up taking dogs from the jungle, teaching them how to be pets in this house that was in the middle of the jungle.
Oh, wow.
And so like people could adopt them and things like that. It was a great opportunity. But then everyone stopped traveling. So we went from making money in the travel space and being able to travel full time to literally being locked down on a Thai island. All of our income went to nothing.
Right.
We were starting to make a substantial living off of like our different travel like sources of income.
Right.
And then we had YouTube, we had a course, we had a coaching program, we had I don't think we had gear at the time, but we were starting to like build out our portfolio and how we were able to sustain it. All of it went to like $30 a month. And so we were like, well, like, what do we do? We're stuck in the middle of the Thai jungle. And so that's actually how we became online English teachers. Because part of the ways that we teach people we were teaching people at the time how to travel full time was through working online. And we were like, well, I mean, we've done it before in the past. Let's just do it again. So we, sorry, that was kind of a long-winded story because coronavirus really threw all of our plans for a loop. And there was a while there where we didn't know if we were going to get kicked out of the country. There was no vaccine in sight. So we were like, how do we stay out of America? Because America was just spiking. And
absolutely. Okay. And Daniel, the other thing I wanted to ask both of you was, what was it like to have a baby in a foreign country? And again, were there, were you at all nervous, or did you face any problems? What was that whole experience like?
Right. Well, for one, the language barrier.
Yeah.
I think when anybody is going through a humongous medical procedure, such as giving birth to a whole human, it would be comforting to have a parent there, family and friends, doctors that can communicate what's happening to you and to your body, what steps are going to happen next, especially when this is the first time you've ever had a baby. You don't know what this process is like. You have nobody there to explain it to you. And people are doing things to your body that you don't understand. And also the cultural differences between giving birth in a place like Thailand versus a place like America. One thing that I did not realize was C-sections are commonplace in Thailand, as in like upwards of 70% of births are C-sections.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't know that. And I didn't realize that it would be something that they pressure you to do, something that they lie to you to get you into doing, something that if you're not emotionally, mentally prepared or supported or have a means of communicating what you want out of the situation, that's what's going to happen to you. And so I actually dealt with a lot of mental health situations after I had the baby, because for one, during the entire procedure, they were doing things to very sensitive areas of my body that I would have not consented to had I known what I was getting into.
Yeah.
Also, having never given birth and being in a position where I have to trust these foreign doctors, I didn't realize that they were malpracticing, essentially asking me to do things like push at 8 centimeters when you shouldn't be pushing until 10, and that's commonplace everywhere else. But they do that so that you get to a point to where you give up and you ask for a C-section.
Right.
And so for me, especially having opted to give birth in a country where epidurals don't exist, unless you go and give birth at a very specific hospital, at least for natural birth, I had now made it through 30 plus hours of unmedicated labor.
Ooh.
Only for at the very end, them tell me that they don't think that I'm going to be able to give birth naturally, which was a lie. To get me to have a C-section. I mean, A, I felt like a failure. Two, I felt betrayed, deceived, bamboozled, robbed, actually, was a way that I would describe it. So a lot of feelings. Apollo, if you see your birth log, came out with giant bruises on his face and on his head because he was already in my birth canal when they tried ripping him out of my body via C-section.
Oh my God.
So they had to use these like giant forceps to take him out of my vagina, essentially. Sorry for the sensitive language here, but like a perfectly natural process that was progressing perfectly naturally to then not only harm the mother, but also harm the baby on the way out in order to charge me more because I'm a white person.
Right.
So,
Well, I'm absolutely shocked and horrified and very sorry to hear all this. I mean, there is still in India a lot of OBGYNs try and get you to have a C-sec just because the hospital and the establishment earns more money that way. But I don't know if once you're in there, there'll be such kind of malpractice. But this is absolutely horrifying.
Now, Aftercare in Thailand far supersedes anything that they have in America. For one, the diet that they give you at the hospital is extremely healthy. The nurses are very kind. Everybody is very pro breast milk, or at least at the hospital that I was at, they were very pro. Here's your baby, feed your baby. They took incredible care of me. So I have no complaints with that. But the birth. I mean, I plan on giving birth to my second child also in Thailand, but at a different hospital with a different doctor and with a doula, somebody who's familiar with the birthing process that can be there for me. Family that will know because we'd be doing it by choice, right? Not because there's a pandemic. So borders will be open, family can come in. It's just going to be hopefully a whole different set of circumstances.
Sure. I certainly hope so, and I have no doubt about that. Okay, great. So after that pretty horrifying, I wasn't expecting that horrific an answer. But anyway, listen, it's been a while, so let me just ask you a very, very generic, general, broad-ended question to sort of conclude the interview with. Annette, for young people, people in high school, people in their early years of college and undergrad, who are very passionate about anything. It might be travel, it might be the arts, it might be anything. What advice would you have to them in terms of pursuing their passion and making it, their life's work? And what advice would you also have if they're facing problems within family or society to do that particular thing?
Okay, I have several. So I'm going to just bullet point them out for them.
Please.
Number one, this life, I'm going to speak to them directly. This life is for you to live. Your parents are going to pass away, and the only person that's going to be left with the life that you've been building is you. And everything that you've built up to that point is going to be your decision. It's going to be your life. So do something that you're going to be happy when you look at yourself in a mirror in the next 20 years and you're going to say, damn, I am proud of myself. B, live with no regrets. You're going to be on your deathbed one day. And I don't want you to be going like, man, I wish I would have done that. What if? Because that's a question that haunts people up until the day that they die. And I want you to live with no what ifs. C, read Deepak Chopra. He is, in my opinion, I've read the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success a million times. As a matter of fact, in all of my courses, if any of you guys eventually want to join in one of those, we have a book club. And it's always the same book. And it's this book. It's like this small, super easy read. But honestly, he just teaches you how to achieve your dreams. Live with detachment. Remember that you are pure potentiality, that you can accomplish anything. You are literally just an extension of the universe. You are a bundle of energy. If you use that energy that you've been given and channel it in whatever your passion is, you're going to achieve it. You just need to try. And if you never try, you've already told yourself no. So don't tell yourself no.
That's wonderful. I mean, certainly from whatever little I've observed, Daniel and you embody the bullet points that you've just shared with me. It's been absolutely wonderful chatting with both of you. Thank you so much for doing this. I know you guys have been very, very busy. and to coordinate this across continents has not been easy either. But thank you very much. I really deeply appreciate it. Take lots of good care of yourselves and of baby Apollo. And, if you're ever in India and in Jaipur again, we have to meet for sure.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, hopefully this coming year, if we're in Thailand, we definitely plan on visiting India. So hopefully we will be meeting very soon. And thank you so much for thinking of us. We're flattered that you wanted to invite us to do this. And we hope that we can be of help to your students because there really is just one life to live. So I hope that they go for it.
I most certainly think so. Actually, you've ended up giving me a lot more food for thought, and I didn't think or have any idea of the kind of challenges that you continue to face, and you do so happily in order to pursue your passion. So there's a lot of learning for any youngster who's watching this. So thank you very much, and Godspeed. Thank you.
Aw, Godspeed to you too. Have a wonderful day.